Acting on a tip from an old classmate, Sarah and I decided to check out a bizarre gravesite east of Merced. So welcome to this episode of History Hunters. We are outside of Merced, California, at a community that was once named Tuttle, where this memorial right here rates at 68 feet as the highest memorial to any living person in California. And he was only a farmer. He wasn't a governor. He wasn't an actor. He wasn't a sports figure. He wasn't the president. He was a farmer of 4,000 acres here in Merced. Why he thought he needed this kind of memorial is kind of baffling to everybody.
Wow, look at the size of that thing. It's huge.
George Fancher owned 4,000 acres of land here in Merced County, just east of Merced, and he became quite wealthy through his farming efforts. And when he died, he saved up $25,000. It was supposed to be used for a memorial in his honor. One brother thought that a fitting way would be to have Merced County form a county library in his honor. Another brother decided that wasn't what George wanted. He wanted an actual physical memorial. It took quite a while for the courts to resolve everything, and in 1911, the memorial right back there was completed for George. Not even Governor Bigler in Sacramento has anything close to this.
I'm just worried that if there's homeless in there, they'll sneak and get in our car while we're not looking.
Yeah, it's actually built with stairs to go up it.
The corners are all nicked off.
Yeah, it looks like they've nicked.
Is that like on purpose? No.
Probably souvenirs.
Oh, look.
As you can see here, George Fancher was born in New York in 1828, and like a lot of young men who were unattached at the time, he headed to California in 1850 during the gold rush. After 6 disappointing years of prospecting for gold, he decided to give it up, and he turned to farming in the nearby Central Valley here. In those days, before irrigation, farmers mostly grew wheat, depending on what little rainfall hit the valley floor. At first, Fancher farmed near Stockton for 13 years, until he had a chance to buy 4,000 acres on this ground right here, close to Bear Creek, in 1869. He called his ranch Bear Creek Ranch. He also partnered with his brothers in banking. Because he had never married and didn't have any kids, in his will, George left his holdings to 17 heirs, which included brothers, nephews, and nieces.
Usually when you have a monument to somebody, it kind of says something about them. So he was just big and full of himself is all I get from this.
George Fancher, I guess, had some grandiose ideas about his importance in the world. The family was in dispute over the best way to memorialize George. One brother wanted to spend $20,000 on a library and $2,000 on a marker at that site. The case eventually went to the California State Supreme Court, which ruled the county had no right to the funds, so there was no library funds devoted. The story is that there's 1,000 tons of granite that was mined or milled out of the hills. People are trying to decide, what do we do with this? Who's going to take care of it? Who's going to bear the responsibility for it and the liability for it? Not that there's a lot of maintenance that needs to be done. However, people like us get up here and we are walking on it, and if we were to fall and break our necks, I mean, who's going to be responsible for that? Maybe we are. Who's going to be liable for it, I should say.
Maybe they just need to turn this corner into a cemetery and bury other people here too. Look at the surroundings. It's just in an odd location.
Right by a train track. He's in the ground underneath this memorial, and that he was buried with things that were valuable to him. Well, what was valuable to a farmer was the wheat that he grew in this area, and also the limbs from the fruit trees. So he grew fruit trees as well. It's been said that was his treasure, and that's what's buried with him Very odd individual.
Where's this location in relation to where he farmed or where his farm was?
This was his land.
This was his land at
Yes.
that time?
Yes.
Okay, now it makes a bit more sense. And so now it's been sold off to, what is that, some sort of trucking company. There's still some farm here, and I can imagine in those other areas, but it's still very weird.
That wasn't too hard, was it? There's part of the cement foundation. Looks like some native stone was used for this. There's an incredible amount of weight that had to be borne up here. They even thought of the little trough for their water runoff.
See, this foundation's gonna eventually crumple and go away. Look, even right here it has.
Those of you who have watched my videos probably know that it really irks me to see this kind of disrespect done to a grave. I'm going to show you over here is the railroad that parallels Highway 140. People take Highway 140 out of Merced to go to Yosemite National Park. There we got people on Highway 140. A lot of highway travelers that go to Yosemite take this route. It's kind of a neat artsy view of it. So do you think George was an egotist?
Well, the only evidence I have is that, but he didn't build that.
No, but he set aside that much money. That was a lot of money for back in 1910. No, actually 1900 when he passed away.
It was a lot of money. And did the brother really serve his interests, or did the brother serve his own ego? Giving back to the community in the form of a library would have been the smarter.
To see if we could learn more about Fancher, we drove to the county museum, now housed in the 1885 Merced County courthouse, one of the oldest remaining in California. Being the presidential history freak, I know that Merced County courthouse here was visited by President Taft on his visit out here to Yosemite National Park. President Taft came into the valley on October 8, 1909 on a train and stopped to make an appearance in the park here surrounding the Merced County courthouse. Earlier in the day, told the crowd in Turlock that he intended to, quote, climb the hills in the Yosemite to reduce the flesh. He was a big guy, so that's what he meant by that. He also mentioned how impressed that he was that irrigation had made the valley thrive with agriculture. And in 1988, Vice President George Bush made an appearance in this same park. Gonna see if the museum's open, if it's worth going to. It's a pretty cool courthouse. It kind of rivals the state capitol in California. So I just learned something interesting from the guy inside the museum. He said that President Harding, when he was on his voyage of understanding, was supposed to come here and visit Merced, this courthouse, in 1923, but he passed away in San Francisco, California. I thought the story ended there. Obviously it did, but I had no idea that he was on his way to Merced, probably en route to Los Angeles, before he passed away. Instead, his funeral train moved through Stockton and through Reno, north of here, en route to Washington, D.C., where he lies in state. The museum staff was unable to fill us in on the unusual case of George Fancher, but sometimes history is more intriguing with that unsolvable element of mystery.